What's up, everybody? Welcome back to the TriSwimCoach podcast. I'm Coach Dominic Latella, and today we're talking about swimming. Shocking, I know. But not just swimming. We're diving into body awareness, core engagement, shoulder mechanics, all the juicy stuff that makes your swim stroke suck less. This is kind of a sequel to an episode I did recently, My Recovery Epiphany, which sounds like a wellness retreat where we eat berries and talk about our feelings, but really it's just me nerding out on how your arm moves when you're not paying attention. You might think it's about your hand. It's not. You might think it's your shoulder that's in charge. It's not. Spoiler, your core's running the show and it's tired of being ignored. We're also getting into how Pilates isn't just for suburban moms named Karen. It's actually the missing link for a lot of triathletes who are flailing around like inflatable tube men at a used car lot. So if you've ever thought, why doesn't my body do what my brain tells it to do? This episode's for you. I get into some coachy stuff, some technique stuff, and probably say a few things I'll regret later, but hey, that's what you signed up for. Grab a snack, put your phone on Do Not Disturb, and let's talk about why your swim stroke might be lying to you. Let's go! We normally record on Wednesday mornings, basically first thing in the morning, right? We work out first and we get a recording done. And so now we've changed our schedule so that we record in the afternoon a little bit or later in the morning. And it's after we do some lessons. So my brain is in like lesson mode. My brain is in like that type of thing where I get to show and demonstrate and play show and tell basically with people. And I would also say people heard me talk a lot last podcast because I was the only one on that podcast. So I'm going to let you do the heavy lifting today. I'm going to let you do all of the talking. I'm just going to sit here and watch you.
The circular world of the podcast leans on my shoulders. Okay. Ooh, shoulders. That was a terrible, gross pun of a segue, but let's talk about that. I'm pretty sure that when we were talking before and I was super tired and then you were like, you answered this question
3 podcasts ago.
I was not in the mood. So let's try to see if I can do that today. So in terms of, let's see if we can back up the trolley.
Let's back this up.
We were talking about the recovery and the entry into the water.
So for anyone who's listening, who didn't listen to this episode, it was the Recovery Epiphany episode. This should be episode number 161, so minus 3.
158.
Should be the episode
We're good at simple math. We're working on it. That looked hard.
That was way
really
harder
hard
for me than it should have been.
I hope that's right. I'm not checking out the calculator.
Clearly very tired. So in that episode, I was sharing this epiphany that I had about the recovery and how it can help the opposite side of the body stay engaged and stay, I would say, rigid, so we don't lose control through our core.
Right, and we actually gain control and balance.
Yeah.
Through the core.
It basically optimizes that opposite side of the body, because at that same time that you're recovering, your other arm would be finishing the stroke and pushing, which should then cause some tension through those same muscles or similar muscles. And so that whole side starts to get to really light up and get to work. And you are like, oh, I have similar thoughts, but I want to end this podcast. So I'm going to end this podcast now. Bye. Right? That's what you did.
Yep.
So
sorry, not sorry.
It was fine. It was actually probably the right thing to do.
So I was thinking about it in terms, when Dominic was talking throughout that podcast, I was thinking about it in terms of, how am I understanding what he's saying right now? And it's interesting to me because I'm not understanding it, or I'm not starting my train of thought in my brain from a swimming standpoint. I'm going to it from, it's thinking, oh, okay, you're talking about a cross-body type of work. I find that work from my obliques. How did I find that work? Oh, I found out how to be able to do that work from Pilates. And so then I was thinking about the rotation of the recovering arm into the water
You mean the rotation of your body?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
And how I used to mess that up.
How so? How did you mess it up?
It was, well, since I didn't have a catch, but I thought I had one for over 2 decades, which is really odd, by the way, when you like think something, something is true, and then you find out so much later in life that it wasn't.
That was just a belief, not an actual fact.
Right. And so then it's like, oh, I have to figure out how to do this thing that I thought I was doing for all this amount of time. So the feelings that I have associated with that movement are wrong in terms of getting a catch, because I don't have one. I could never actually feel much in the water, was where my brain went. It's like, okay, when I was competing, what would I feel?
Are you talking external sensation or internal sensation, or are you talking both? Like, could you feel like you were generating pressure against the water, but you couldn't feel maybe what muscles you were using or being activated in order to press against the water? Or you feel like you had neither one of those? You just went through the water?
Neither one.
Woof.
I only had that feeling from my legs.
Okay.
Which would make sense as to why I was such a phenomenal kicker.
Mm-hmm.
But to my child brain, I was a fantastic kicker and just like a really pretty bad. Wow, my arms are really weak. Weird. Okay, whatever. Moving on. Right. That was pretty much my thought. So I used to think about it in terms of my hand entering the water.
Mm-hmm.
And I realized that for my brain, when I think about my hand doing something, I lose all connection to the rest of my body.
Yeah.
And
that makes a lot of sense, by the way.
Right? Like that's just the thing at the end of my wrist that flops, that does, you know what I mean? Like that's what I think about when I associate a movement with my hand. And so
think about all the joints between your hand and your hip.
How many are there?
A lot of them. Well, if you count ribs and things as joints, a lot of joints in between one hand and through the same side of the body. There's a lot of opportunities for the movement to be cut off by a joint, basically, is my point.
How many joints are there between your what and your what?
Your wrist and your hip. There's a lot. There's no way that there's someone on the internet who's like calculating this.
AI says between your wrist and your hip, you have 5 main joints.
Main joints, all right? 5 is enough to know that that's a lot of options to mess up.
The elbow, radial, nular, wow.
Latin much?
Shoulder, acromyoclavicular, sternoclavicular.
Mm-hmm.
Wow. All right. Anyway, that was a fun trip. This is why I can't do that.
So your hand, you think about your hand.
Right. Thinking about my hand, I lose all connection that it's attached to me and that it has a stem. It comes from something. It's attached to something. And that stem has a root.
What?
A root.
Oh, okay.
A root. R-O-O-T.
I don't know what accent you were just channeling, but okay.
I can't do accents. I was just talking. I don't know. You can't have me do accents on here. Well, I'll get myself in so much trouble. Starts Irish, goes Jamaican. I think then it's like in English, and I'm really trying hard.
So
for me,
your arm has a root.
My arm has a stem. It has a root.
Mm-hmm.
What's at the root of my arm? And to me, the root of my arm is my shoulder.
The shoulder joint?
No. My whole shoulder visually.
You mean like
brick of your shoulder?
The brick.
If you visually look, if you take your hand
mm-hmm.
and you look at your hand,
mm-hmm.
and I'm like, okay, how does your hand connect to your body?
Mm-hmm.
You go all the way down your arm, and then you get to your armpit,
mm-hmm.
and then I feel the connection in my shoulder. So technically, I feel it in my lat.
I would say the root of your arm is your shoulder blade.
I'm just talking about what I feel and what I'm thinking.
Uh-huh. So the root of your arm is your shoulder.
Which I don't feel my shoulder blade in any way, shape, or form, but I can feel the chunk of my shoulder.
Like the girdle.
That my arm is attached to.
Got it.
That I can rotate into the water.
Got it.
Like I'm a ballerina.
Okay. It's an interesting thought.
And so then to me, I think what keeps the root working? Oh, what's the root connected to? My core. Okay.
Yeah.
So if I keep my core engaged and in line, so my pelvis is tucked, so that I can use my low abs. I can feel my obliques. And then if I keep my top or if I keep my ribs closed and I don't flare them open and arch, then I can feel the connection that you were talking about in my opposite side body. When my opposite side goes into the water. That was said terribly.
So
when my right
basically, let me surmise this.
This is why you lead the podcast, because my brain is like...
I want to hear your thoughts.
Wishy-washy.
You're saying if you have correct posture for swimming.
Swimming posture is what I'm talking about.
For swimming, which if you picture your diaphragm as the top of a canister, your obliques as the side, and your pelvic floor as the bottom of a canister.
And to me, I just picture plank posture.
Right. No dents in that can, because if you have any dents in that can, you collapse, just like a can would. So if you had good posture and you rotate, we're going to say the right side of your body, downward into the water, that's when you start to feel your left obliques support. Okay. So,
but if I think about it in terms of the catch or the entry, then I lose that connection from that thought, just for me.
That makes sense. I understand why someone would lose that connection, and that's why I think it's important to kind of recognize that your recovery, it is separate from your entry, but bleeds into your entry. Just like your entry is separate from your catch, but bleeds into your catch. It's not all one movement.
No.
And it's just how do you blend those movements together as part of that thought. And so that's why my epiphany was actually such an epiphany to me. Because if somebody just starts to roll the middle of their arm forward during the recovery around the shoulder joint, it sets them up to enter the water where they should. They don't have to think about an entry. And their rotation as they're entering is causing their arm to shift or slide into position to set a catch. And so you have to think about your catch very minimally.
So say the thing you just said about your arm rolling forward again.
So as somebody recovers, their arm should actually start to slightly roll or lean forward as the arm is getting close to the shoulder line.
So for that thought to me, I can't feel me doing anything by having that thought.
And when you
so
say
in
you
order
can't feel
for me,
anything,
I don't have any physical reaction. I don't feel like a muscle has engaged. I don't feel that I've done it. Thinking the words you just said. In order for me to achieve that, I have to think. I have to keep my ribs closed. And maintain a connection to my lat while I maintain my ribs closed to bring my arm forward in the way that you would like it to be brought forward so that I don't flare up and out with my elbow to the side of my body.
Yeah, that all makes sense. I mean, I'm not asking anyone to flare their ribs, so that makes a lot of sense.
No, I'm telling you how you asked how I think about it, and I'm telling you how I think about it. And I think it's interesting to have the same result from two sort of completely different paths. Because the only way that I could understand what you were talking about in order to be able to achieve that output is from those terms. Thinking about it only from my core, maintaining that feeling in my core, and then I can achieve that.
I think part of the thing I'm looking for people to gain is that your core is going to be triggered. It is going to be sort of primed and triggered by certain movements. And so that's all I'm trying to get across, is that if we do move in a certain way at a certain time, your body will support that movement or not support that movement. And it's just knowing how to move and when to move, right? So how we think about these things is really up to how the individual receiving the information takes that information in.
Right, but it is so important to getting the correct output. It has to be a way that you think about it personally that gets it. So it's very important.
Right. And that's why for myself, as I'm coaching this specific thing, and this is what I also did for the previous podcast, I made the video for the podcast to show how you can find it. and then how do you feel it, and then how do you not feel it, right? I like to coach in compare and contrasts, and so that it's like, okay, do this motion. Do you feel that? No? Great. You're not supposed to. Awesome. Now do this motion. Do you feel that? You do. Awesome. Or if you don't, well, why not? Let's figure out the why not.
Mm-hmm.
All right. So I would never just talk these words to somebody and expect them to get it. I would always have to have them do some form of a exercise or drill of some sort so that they could understand the motion in action and how it all connects. And that's why I gave that video to everyone to view who's listening, so that they can see how I would trigger that response in anybody. And as of thus far, I haven't done this with a lot of people, but as of thus far, the people I have done this with all feel that connection based off of how I present it to them, not based off of the words that I use. Does that make sense? I think the words that I'm
you're using, how you're presenting it to them.
The words I'm using are
How
words
else
that I
are
would
you
use in
presenting it?
conjunction with a physical demonstration.
Okay, so you mean they're watching your physical movement more than they're connecting to the words that you're saying?
No, what I'm saying is I make them do an exercise or a movement to find that connection in addition to the words that I'm saying. Not necessarily just me showing. I show, I tell, and they show, and they tell. That's how it goes, basically.
Mm-hmm.
All right? So I think a lot of coaching is telepathy. And how do we actually plant a thought into someone's mind? And how do we know what works for that person, right? So the way that you say something is how you would want someone to plant a thought in your mind, basically, for the most part, like what you were just saying.
Not necessarily how I would want them to, but how I know my brain will work best.
Okay.
To give me the best physical output.
So what I'm trying to understand is, if you don't think about the position that your arm is in while you recover, right? Because you basically said all you're going to think about is your core and how it attaches to your root.
To understand the movement that you're talking about, not necessarily as I'm recovering, just in this conversation. So that's where I go. That's where I think I do picture an arm recovering.
Okay.
But it doesn't help me understand the movement that you're asking for. Does that make sense?
I think so.
It's the same thought to me as when I came into your lesson with Shirley the other day at Swimbox, and I said, ask her to do this when she's in this position. Mm-hmm. I said, ask her to bring her right hip in line with her right shoulder. Mm-hmm. And what you started to then ask her was to bring her right shoulder in line with her right hip.
Right.
Which is not what I want, and that is a different movement. Mm-hmm. Another good example is if you're standing, and anyone can just do this, stick your arms straight out in front of you. Bring your hips to your hands. Don't bring your hands to your hips.
Right.
Things like that.
Right.
And so it's like, I understand that I can manipulate how I'm thinking to get an output. And oftentimes that for me, I'm more connected with an on-land Pilates core-based strength mobility movement that I put it into swimming, even though I started swimming first. I was swimming since I was 6 years old. I'm 36. I only started Pilates like 5 to 7.
Not even that long.
5 years ago.
Yeah.
And so it's like fascinating to me that I guess it makes sense. I'm more of an adult now. I connect more with the Pilates that I'm trying to mentally connect with. I can't go back to 16-year-old me and know what I was mentally connecting things with. I didn't have those experiences. No one taught me those things.
Right.
So I could only come about it from swimming.
Yeah, and I think just Pilates has got a great way of showing us what's working, much so more obviously than swimming does, because you weigh less in the water, so you're not going to be moving as much weight as you would on land during Pilates. So those typically, I would think those movements are way more obvious in Pilates than in swim. So that makes a lot of sense to me. But I'm curious about, have you tried to get any of your swimmers to feel that connection that I talked about on that podcast yet?
In the way that you put it out?
No, just any way that you feel like you wanted to talk to them about it.
No.
Okay.
You have much more
I have-
mentally advanced swimmers than I do. I currently work with, like, the majority of my clients are between
You run the gamut.
10
you really
and
do.
17.
Right, but at the same time, you do
And then
have
I
a
have a chunk of
handful of
adults.
and right. I mostly work with adults, so yeah, I'd get to have conversation in a much more nuanced way for sure.
But it's really exciting too having younger people, because then I get to teach them. And one of my favorite things to do is be like, do you know how to do a plank? Everyone always says yes.
Mhm.
I go, okay, get out, show it to me. Explain to me what you're doing to set up the plank. That runs the gambit. That's so funny. The spectrum of instructions I get is hilarious. And some things are right just from happenstance. Like, you can get 2 out of 7 kids to be in a plank and you'll lift your hips and they'll tuck their pelvis. They won't just stick their butt in the air like a dog.
You think that is 2 out of how many?
I don't know, 12.
I feel like that's like
50.
1 out of 1,000,000.
Yeah. And so it's like, also, so many people only know a forearm plank now.
Yeah, it's definitely more
It's
common.
fascinating to me.
Definitely more common.
Whereas that was the second one I ever learned. We had to do upright all the time.
I honestly don't remember.
Yeah, I don't know. So everyone will go into that. No one ever says anything about, in an upright plank, wrists under shoulders. No one says elbows under shoulders in a forearm plank. They're pretty good there. But it's hilarious that no one gives me any instruction about what's happening, or like how. No one ever says anything about their legs. No one ever says that they're doing anything with their legs.
Yeah.
It's so funny to me. Small movements put into that, and then you get to hear the kid be like, or start to shake. And like, this is really hard.
I mean,
Well, yeah, it should have gotten a lot harder. But it's fascinating, because who even taught you that plank? A gym teacher in elementary school? I don't know. I can't remember who taught me a plank.
Yeah.
Or how it was taught to me. I think it was probably on a pool deck doing dry land.
Right.
Which is one adult looking at like 30 to 50 kids.
And usually an adult who isn't qualified to make these judgment calls anyway, if it's a good plank or not. Yeah, it's interesting to think about how any exercise being introduced to somebody who might be too weak to actually perform that exercise, all you really did was just introduce the compensation to them.
What do you mean the compensation?
Whatever thing they did to make that happen, whether it was right or not.
Right.
So you introduce the compensation to the weak person, and now that weak person goes, this is a plank. And it's very difficult to teach them outside of that, no matter how old they are, actually.
Yeah.
So it's almost like what Brooke's method of coaching: walk faster, jog faster, run. Right.
Yeah. Everything has to be a progression.
Right. So making sure that somebody can actually do the task that they're being asked to do is really important in all coaching. But most kids on a pool deck, we're going to talk about kids on a pool deck, are asked to do things that they do not have the strength to do. And
oh my gosh, yeah.
It's like huge leaps of ability that these kids are asked to perform. Most of these kids are straight up swimmers. They don't really do that many land sports or have ever played land sports. Is it really fair to ask them to do land-based movement all of a sudden when they're pretty uncoordinated usually?
Without teaching them.
Obviously, this is a stereotype that I'm talking about, but it's something that is fairly accurate about the swimming world. Most swimmers are not good at land-based sports. A lot are, but most aren't. So maybe there needs to be a better way to teach kids how to do land-based movement if they're straight up swimmers. I would say, conversely, adults coming into swimming have the opposite to overcome.
Yeah.
They have to relearn. Like I think I said it on the Brooke podcast. Everyone has to relearn rules now if they're coming into swimming as an adult, right? We have different movement rules. We have different rules involved in how to swim. So it's an interesting like switch of mindsets, and young swimmers are going to think about things differently than adult non-swimmers coming into swimming. So how you say things are going to be very different than how I say things, for sure.
Mm-hmm. But it's like I don't dumb anything down.
Yeah.
And I think that that's really important. It's just we're going to learn about a lot of parts of your body and how we can figure out how to utilize them best in here.
Yeah. I think one thing that I keep hearing a lot of that I really love and appreciate is when I was practicing, I felt this happening and I knew to correct it,
Mm-hmm.
and I did.
Mm-hmm.
Right? When I'm being
That's
told
so
that
good.
by somebody, it makes me feel like I did my job, basically.
Oh, 100%.
Right? And I had a new client who I have not seen in like 5 or 6 weeks.
Oof.
And she was only given the task to practice kicking flat on her stomach with her hands around 6 to 8 inches below the surface of the water, just to focus on her kick. She told me that she went to the pool once a week for the last 5 or 6 weeks and did this. And at first, she thought it was so boring and thought like constantly checking the time to be like, has it even been 15 minutes yet? Just trying to get through it. And she told me her last time that she swam, right before she came in, she said she did 30 minutes of just straight up kicking, and it flew by. And it flew by because she started to notice all these things that were happening that she could control or prevent, or feel when things kind of like slid out of place and she could slide back into place. And it
That's
made me
so hard to do. That's so good.
It's so hard to do. By the way, she has a Pilates background.
Nailed it.
Just a coincidence, by the way. But it made me really happy to hear not just that she's learning how to self-correct, but it made me happy to hear that she developed a curiosity about what she was doing.
Mm-hmm.
She
It's
wasn't just
fascinating.
going, almost feeling, I don't want to say disgruntled about, oh, I have to go kick now.
I did it. Check.
Right. It was
Yeah.
like, well, I got to go do this thing, so I might as well pay attention to what I'm doing. Might as well focus on it. And it's just, I thought for sure she was going to come back and be like, I didn't do shit for the last 6 weeks because I just got so tired of kicking, right? I thought for sure that's what she was going to tell me. But I was pleasantly surprised to hear the opposite of that. And so how people self-correct is really interesting because that's what we do, right? That's
Yeah.
what we're really teaching. I might say words in a certain way to make you feel certain things, but ultimately I
It's
do
you
rounds.
remembering.
It's you knowing the feeling, right? It's almost like you don't even want to remember to do the thing. It's almost like you want to have something that triggers you to change if you need to change, or feel the thing that you're supposed to feel that guarantees that you're doing it as close to correct as possible.
And for me, it's always an engagement. Did you feel this in this movement? Did you maintain it through this movement? If you lost it, go back and do it again.
Yeah, it's something that I think more people need to do to themselves. I think
That's what I try to do the most of.
right. I always want to know if someone can make a motion and feel what something, right? And that starts the conversation. Like, what did you feel during that? And it's like, okay, well, that's the feeling I want you to feel for when you go swim. But I don't think enough people ask themselves the question, what did I use to do that? Or what was I feeling when
Oh my God,
did
no,
that?
of course they don't. That's
Right?
why I get to ask all those questions, and it's so much fun. How did you do that? How'd your arm move from point A to point B? And I love the blank stare I get sometimes.
People don't want to take the time to figure out the math for their intervals, which is kind of important to do.
That's definitely more than kind of important,
Well,
especially if you're training.
they try
and trying
to
use
go,
it.
well, I'll just use a watch instead, right? So they avoid having
Nope.
to think, right?
Cheat.
So I can only imagine that people are going to avoid having to think about what it is I actually used to do that 50 or that 25 or that 800, right? So I would implore everyone listening, question what it is you're doing.
Ooh, think about it.
I try to ask most of my clients, if not all of my clients, at the end of their lesson, what did they learn or what did they find insightful from this lesson? People can ask themselves that question after each practice too,
Yeah, you should.
right?
I have a 10-year-old girl with a notebook. She writes in it every time she's done with practice.
That's awesome.
10-year-old girl. It's her idea. Love.
Yeah.
Beautiful. That's amazing. We can all learn from her.
Yeah. I don't think people need to go to that level. I think that's amazing. But I think as long as people are just asking themselves, what did they actually learn and achieve from their swim? And it's not just, oh, checked it off. I finished the swim now, right? If people want to get a notebook and write these things down, obviously, please do that. I think it's a great idea.
Yeah, just an example of how you can think more.
Yeah.
Question everything.
I agree. Question everything.
And now it's time for me to eat a bagel.
Oh, you're done.
Yep, we're done.
Okay, then. We're going to go eat breakfast now, I guess.
Yeah, I'm hungry.
All right. Let's finish the podcast then.
Question everything.
Question everything. And we'll talk next time.
Bye.